Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
Hello and welcome to episode 362 of Better on Draft. I am Rob, one of your hosts, and with me today is Wendy. Wendy, what are you drinking over there?
Well, in honor of their annual Punchki Day celebration, I have got Eastern Market Brewing Company's, both of their Punchki beers, chocolate cream pastry blend, which I thought was pretty good, and a raspberry jam pastry inspired blend, which is always delicious.
That's raspberry jam one. Sounds pretty tasty. Today I have a beer I brought back. I was in Dallas this week, the Imperial Texan, which is a double red, double IPA, made in Texas by Texans. It was about the most Texas beer I could find. And with us today, we have Annie from Naptown Trivia. Hi, Annie.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi.
What are you
Thank
drinking?
you for having me. I am not drinking beer. You know that. I am drinking a soda. For now, something caffeinated.
Sure. So welcome to the show. I am glad that you were able to join us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why I might have invited you on?
Okay, so my name is Annie. I'm with a company called Naptown Trivia. And Rob, you have been playing trivia with Naptown Trivia since, I think, 2018, with a little break in there for the pandemic. And since we came back, we've been doing trivia ever since. And so that's probably why you had me on.
That is exactly why I had you on. So I would love to hear about how Naptown Trivia got started.
Okay. Well, in 2018, I'm a teacher, as you know, and it just got to the point where I was like, I need to make a little bit of extra money. And I was playing trivia at another location. And I was thinking, like, I think I could do this trivia hosting thing. And I looked into like hosting for that particular company that we played with. And I was like, I don't want to do it for that amount. So I think I could probably just like do it myself. And my first thought was that I would try to go through like country clubs, because all country clubs have an activities director and they need someone to, they need to like bring in people to do activities for their guests. And so I had 12 stamps and I was like, okay, well, I'll just mail out 12 letters. I didn't email, I actually mailed letters. And so I mailed out 12 letters and I got one response, which is what I expected, from a country club here in Fishers, Indiana. And so I started trivia there, but they only wanted it like once a month. And that worked perfectly in my schedule. You know, I have 3 kids. So I was like, okay, once a month I can do that. And I would drive all the way to Fishers and do this once a month trivia. And that only lasted for a couple of months. But that's where I first had, but it wasn't public. And so none of my friends could go. I couldn't invite anyone. It was just the people from the country club who actually did not want to play trivia. Like the activities director thought it sounded fun. And I, of course, thought it sounded fun. But once I was there, the people who were in the club did not want to play trivia.
It sounds like a case where like, the clientele was already the clientele, regardless of what was going on.
Yeah, yes. and they were more bothered by it. But then, even though their people didn't want to play, they still had me come back, and they decided to go weekly. And so then I was like, okay, fine. I can drive to Fishers every week. Like I think it was Thursday nights, and that was honestly the first trivia that when I had other people working for Naptown, that's the first one I gave away. Like, oh, how about Fishers? Do you want to go to Fishers every Thursday?
Yeah.
And they all hated it. None of them liked it. Like the host would be like, don't send me back there.
It sounds like a hostile crowd.
It was a little bit. And they were like, we're not rich because we're smart. So you make the questions too hard.
I see.
And so, yeah. I learned though a lot from that.
Sure, I bet. Yeah. So that actually kind of, how do you go about writing your questions then?
Now I try really hard not to just sit down in one day and write them out, because then the questions night to night are very similar to one another. It's usually just stuff like that's happening, or a movie that I heard about, or something that reminded me of something else. And so I'll try to have, it's 22 questions and only 4 of them are about the theme. So the rest of it's general, just stuff I've run into. It was a lot easier before COVID, when I was only writing 1 set of questions every week, and now it's 5. But yeah, and I thought that was hard. I thought, the 1 time a week was hard. But now I sometimes questions play like night to night will play off of it. So if I think of something for one night, I'm like, just save it for Tuesday. Just save that one and do it on another night. But I try to like spread it out throughout the week so that I'm not spending hours on it, and so that I'm not keeping the categories very similar to each other, because we have people who come 4 nights a week, and if all of the categories are the same every night, they get bored. So
That's pretty impressive. And you save for Tuesday because that's the night I'll be there, right?
yeah, I save the harder ones for the board gamers. The more difficult questions for you. You guys are really good at trivia, so it's difficult to stump you, actually. I'm surprised when you miss one.
We have a good mix of brains in our team.
Yeah, you do. You do. You can tell Chris you never miss a music question when she's there.
That's right.
It's true.
My team now has their own niche too that we work together well with.
Yeah. Everybody has their thing that they're good at. Yeah.
Yeah, it helps. How did you come up? Can you describe your format, and then how did you come up with your format? Because it seems different. I wander into a lot of pub trivias when I'm traveling. It seems different from any that I've wandered into.
Yeah. So it's sitting in playing trivia at several different places. You kind of figure out what you like and what you don't like. So the local trivia here, they're all formatted so differently. I know that I don't like picture questions. I don't really enjoy doing that. I'll play that way, but I don't like to ask those kinds of questions where you have to pass out stuff. I prefer it to be more interactive. And so I kind of combined all of the things that I like about the different trivias that we went to, so that we could have something that was about 2 hours. It doesn't take longer than that, because people will leave if it's longer than that, and still leave some choice. Like, you still have a chance at the end, because if someone is down like halfway through and they're not doing well and they have no chance of recovering from that, they're just going to quit. So that's why there's still a chance at the end to come back and win. So we have the 2 rounds, and then halftime, and then 2 rounds, and then a final question. And I find that works the best, because I can kind of split it up in difficulty. So the first half is usually less difficult than the second half. And people get mad about that, but it's just the way it goes. I'm trying to let you get points so that you can wager them at the end if you want. So I would say that really it's a combination of several different places that I've played trivia. I just took the things that I like and left out the things that I don't like. Like, I really want it to be interactive. I want to be able to interact with the crowd. And some places the host never talks. They hardly ever talk. They just give questions and answers. So I try to make it as friendly and interactive as possible.
Well, I think you do a good job. I kind of so the way it's structured, there's the 4 rounds with 5 questions each. A halftime question that's hard,
On
or
purpose.
usually
On
hard.
purpose.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. It's an optional question, gives you plenty of time to go to the restroom and get your beer refilled and
Mm-hmm.
all that. And then the final question, where we bet all of our points, or we bet enough points so we end at 69 at the end.
Every time.
Every time.
Every time. Or you try and then you get it right and then you don't get 69 points.
Yeah,
Like last week.
that's also disappointing.
Mm-hmm. You just have to miss it. You can miss it on purpose.
I don't think we can. I don't think we have it in us.
Yeah, no, that's true.
You can't miss a question on purpose.
I know. But some people do. There was a place where we hosted that had first, second, and last place. And so at the end, we would just have a bunch of people with last place. And then we'd have to have several tiebreakers to figure out who got last. They would throw it just so that they could get a prize, just so they would win something. And I finally talked them out. They changed ownership, and I finally was like, please let it just be third place. And I think we lost some teams over that. Actually, they really were there for the last place.
Wow.
Tiebreaker.
I could see second last working out a little better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That's complicated though.
But yeah, then everyone will end with 1 point.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they'll figure it out. They'll have 2 points or whatever it takes.
Yeah.
So, just out of curiosity, what are the topics that you get the most feedback on?
Ooh. People love 80s music, and they don't like when we have a theme that is just like if we had Clint Eastwood night or whatever, they would not like that. They don't want to watch movies about old men. I've gotten that feedback. People don't like history questions. They don't like if I ask a question about flags, like different colors of flags, they don't like that. And they don't like mythology very much. Even though they do pretty well at it, I try not to make it impossible. It's not like the most impossible mythology. They don't like that.
Yeah.
But I think generally speaking, people like the food and drink and the toys and games and the anything music is usually fine as long as it's not rap music. So they don't seem to enjoy that very much.
It's funny you went through that list, and I know a lot of those things keep showing up over and over. so sniffy
They
things
do.
is just blasphemy. I love all those. So
I
I'm
know,
glad that
it
you're
is.
not dissuaded from including them, because you need bad things for good things to
Right.
feel good.
Yeah, or like people who don't believe in astrology. Well, you don't have to believe in astrology to know what your astrological sign is, but they boo me over that. Some teams of men will boo me over Disney. They don't like that. If they're just a team of all guys, that's sexist, but it's true. Some of them.
Right.
And literature. I would say literature. They don't like literature either. Because it's hard to remember who wrote what.
Right.
Is it though?
Yeah, no, I don't know. But they love music and they love like the people questions. That's usually something that's happening recently, sometimes. And anything that's more current, the younger teams like. But if we go anywhere past like the year 2000, they all think it happened in 1980, no matter what. They just put, 1980. I think
That's
this week it
awesome.
was a question about when Martin Luther King Jr. won the Nobel Peace Prize, and people put 1987. And you're like, okay, sure.
I will say I am a Jeopardy fanatic, so
Mhm.
it's the one show that my grandma and I watch religiously together.
Yeah.
Like my parents have stopped calling me at 7:30 so that I can watch Jeopardy with grandma.
Aw.
And the new pop culture Jeopardy that's streaming on, I don't even know which service it is. I think it's Netflix.
Yeah.
I love it. I don't know half the answers.
Yeah.
But I love it because it's all that stuff that you would find at trivia that would challenge me with the new things that are going on.
I know. I wish that I had time to watch that. I think it happens on a night that I'm hosting trivia, but hopefully they'll get it on a platform that I can just go back and watch episode by episode. I don't know if it's like that now already.
I think it is because I binged like the first 4 or 5 episodes.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
I think it's Netflix. I'll look it up.
Okay. And I actually try really hard not to steal questions from Jeopardy, because people will be like, we saw that on Jeopardy. You're just asking a question that happened last week on Jeopardy. I'm like, well, not the exact same thing. It just reminded me of some other thing. But they'll call me out.
Yeah,
or God forbid, I repeat a question that happened 4 years ago. And I'm like, well, it's been 4 years. And then I repeat a question. We've had that question. Like, yeah, it was 4 years ago at a different place, at a totally different place. And you just happen to be at 2 different places. So
listen, if you only like 3 topics, we have to double up on the question sometimes.
Sometimes. Or just, if they're not timely questions, 4 years, I think, is enough time to let pass before you can repeat them. We have a whole database of things we've already asked.
I'm just curious, because at the beginning of the show, you said you're not drinking. Does that mean that you are not a beer girl?
I'm not a beer girl. Actually, I tried for a while. We were at a brewery in Brownsburg. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name of the place.
I've mentioned them before, yes.
Okay, so we were at Mind Over Mash. That was the first brewery I was in. And I actually got a call asking me to reach out to them, because the people who were going there were afraid it was going to close if they didn't get more of a crowd. So I went in, and we didn't have a very big crowd for a long time, but I drank beer there for sure. I tried anyway. And now I just realized I'm a grown up and I don't have to drink it if I don't want to.
That's right.
That's an awesome answer.
Yeah.
I'm just curious then how you ended up in so many breweries doing trivia.
Yeah, so the first one was Mind Over Mash. And then I realized that these are the places that actually need the business. Like when they're first starting out, especially, they need someone to come in to bring people to them. And then the people will come and they like the beer and they'll keep coming back on days that aren't trivia nights. So when a new brewery was opening, I would reach out to them. I would try to be first. Some of the local companies beat me on that, but I would try to reach out as soon as I noticed that something was opening and say hey, I would love to do trivia in your place. So Mind Over Mash actually was a catalyst for some of the other breweries that we were in, like Traders Brewing. Were there, and they were friends, so that's how we kind of met up. And so really it was just a matter of me reaching out to those breweries just to see if they needed help. And some of them oh no, we don't need that. And then a year later, they realized that trivia is something that would help them, just to have a sustainable crowd, the same crowd numbers every week, because pretty much we have the same rotation of teams who come every week. It's not always all the same people, but a good amount. And so once they realized that was a thing, then they started referring to other breweries. And then there's one company that has 3 different breweries, and they just use us for all of their trivias. So that's how we're in that one particular. Yeah.
That makes sense. So you were at Mind Over Mash, but they closed, and you're at Traders Brewing. You're at Planetary.
Mm-hmm.
Where else are you?
We're at Nye Brewing and Brewlink Brewing and Brewlink Downtown as well.
Okay. So in case
and then
people
we've had a few. Yeah.
are around
Yeah.
Indianapolis, you can look for Naptown Trivia,
Yeah,
and that's like 5 nights.
it
of
is. It's a
breweries.
lot of nights. It is.
Yeah.
And there are only 3 of us who do it, so we're pretty much busy all the time.
That's good.
One of the things that I've always found fun about trivia is the team names. What are some of your favorite team names that you've come across?
Oh man. We have some that change their team names every week, like the board gamers. They try to have some like riff on their same things. We have a team that's been playing for a really long time that's just low expectations, and they always win. So that ends up being ironic. Man, I think a lot of people do like a search, like if they've never played trivia, they do a search for like what would be funny. And so we get like trivia Newton John and the periodic table gamer, table dancers. That's a pretty funny one. And right now we have a kind of a newish team who's playing at Green Street in Brownsburg, and they're the $3 hookers, which isn't necessarily like my favorite name, but it's memorable. And so when I say their name, like the whole rest of the place is like, oh yeah, it's the $3 hookers. It's really funny. So, I mean, there's just a ton of them. There are so many, but I do think new teams tend to Google like something like funny trivia names, and there's a list that pops up.
Team names are hard.
They are. You guys have a whole text chat about it, right?
Yes, we do. Sunday, you usually announce the theme, and either Sunday or Monday, we put together some ideas that incorporate board gamers, probably the number 69 in whatever the theme is.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah, that's our formula.
At least they have a formula. They're consistent with that.
That's right.
So do you do themes every week, or?
Yeah, so every week we have a new theme that's announced on Sundays. We usually just put it on Instagram and Facebook, and so that people aren't scared off of coming to trivia, it's really only one question per round. And the halftime question and final question are related to whatever the theme is. And we have tried, actually, right after COVID, we were like, we're not doing themes anymore. We just want to have general trivia. And it just didn't work. people were like, please bring back the theme. I think they like the studying aspect of it. People enjoy having something to look for. Because they'll be like, we studied this. We worked really hard to figure this out. Like, okay, I can understand. So we brought back the themes, and that didn't last very long. And we've only like once a year or something, we'll have a themeless week. And then once a month too, on at Brewlink Downtown on Saturdays, like the third Saturday of the month, we have just a one-off trivia with better prizes, and that does not have a theme. And I try to make that one a little bit more difficult because the prizes are so good. And I think I enjoy that one time a month not having a theme to write about, and like the final question can be anything. So it's better to write that trivia because it doesn't have to follow the normal format.
I was going to say that's got to be harder on you to come up with a theme like that, because 22 questions in one theme can be difficult.
That would be hard. Yeah. And so we have to think of themes that we can have 6 questions every night, so a total of 30 questions, and they can't be the same. So some themes are just out of the question. We have people who really, really want like WWE trivia or, math or whatever, but it's just too hard to come up with that many questions night after night about those themes. So I'll throw in a WWE question every now and again, but we're not going to have that as a theme probably. Although someone did hire us for a WWE birthday party once, and that was pretty fun.
Nice.
That's one thing. I mean, you can do a birthday party, but not every night.
Right.
Yeah, the downtown one, the Saturday one, I would guess you only have to write one set of questions for that. Because it's just a one-off.
Yeah. You can just be anything. Yeah. And the halftime can just be randomly difficult.
Yes.
Have you ever had any questions that people were just up in arms over?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I still, like, people will come up to me and say, like, this is a violin question. I had a guy just yell at me over this, which is a larger instrument, a viola or a violin. And which one's smaller? And the violin is smaller than a viola. And he was like, both my wife and my daughter play the viola. I know it's smaller. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, it's higher pitch. It does not make it smaller. And he just yelled. Thankfully, we have enough teens that kind of stick up for me and will say, like, just leave her alone. But they'll like come up and point. Don't do that. And there was a Periscope question. So we'll say, like, don't ask any violin questions. Don't ask about periscopes, because that it's hard to word the question. Yeah. And people get really mad about it. If you don't word it exactly right, then people get really, really mad. And I'm like, but you knew what I was talking about. You knew exactly what I was talking about. So yeah, people have their questions that they feel very strongly about, for sure.
In my defense, I've been drinking.
You, yes, many people have been. Thankfully, you don't fight me over questions. Your team doesn't usually fight. A little booing here and there is fine, because that's all in tongue in cheek. But there are some people who get mad, and they'll look it up and they'll say, "This is what I found, and I found this." And I'm like, "Yeah, but look at your source. That's a bad source." And so, like, here's where I got the information. So we usually have, like, I used to, like, put links to all my sources on there, on my question sheet, so people could see, so I could just click on it really fast and show them. But I don't do that anymore. It's not, yeah.
I bet it would help your other hosts too, though.
Yeah, it does help them sometimes to know where I got the information.
So how many hosts do you have working for you?
So 3. Well, myself and my husband, Brad, and then Trent, who is a teacher as well. So my husband, Brad, was also a teacher, and it just seems easier to hire teachers in this role because, first of all, they're used to talking to people. And second, they're pretty reliable about showing up. So you have to really commit to every Thursday night, you're going to go to this place and do this trivia. Because if you're not there, there's really aren't very many people to fill in your place. And you know that business is missing out on income for the night. So it's a guilty thing too. You don't want them to miss out.
Right.
I'd expect they're good at getting sass from the people in the audience too.
Yeah, they're fine with it. There's sometimes I'll hear about it, but most of the time it's just like that. You wouldn't believe this guy, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Right. Toots would like to know if you accept questions from outside sources.
Meaning like places that sell their questions or people who want to give me a question. I have a lot of people who want to give me a question. Like, here's a good one.
So yeah. So for example, if the board gamers gave you some good questions for, next week.
Right. Well, I would have to use them on a night that you weren't playing, even though you would show up.
Yes,
So
yes,
yeah,
we would.
we do get some feedback from people, especially about like themes and like could you have a question about this thing? Um, and there are a lot of places that that I look for inspiration for questions. Um, but a lot of it just comes from watching football on Sunday or keeping track of what's happening on people.com, CNN, like all of those places that they have stories that aren't just news related. Some of them are more feel good, happy stories or information about movies that are coming up or just remind you of old nostalgic movies that you hadn't thought about for a while. You're like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then just save it for a trivia question.
Right. I feel like you have a theme that you always do right around your birthday too. That is always fun.
Yeah, usually it's either 80s or I was born in the 70s. So a lot of times I'll do 70s stuff or early 80s music. And that's always really fun for me to write. So, and I get to listen to the music that I like. So, I still like that music.
That actually reminds me of show tune weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I know that a couple of bartenders have given feedback on show tune weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And sometimes they're very, very well attended. Like people come in droves and they like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. It's 80s music week. And then sometimes people are like, no, we're not doing this. Definitely there are people who don't like boy band music. There are teams that just refuse to even come to trivia on the nights that we have boy band music because they just don't want to listen to it the whole time. It's pretty funny.
Well, that's no fun.
I know.
Do you have teams that show up in costume for certain teams?
Sometimes. Rob has been known to show up in costume, for sure.
No.
Yeah, and definitely over Halloween. And definitely over Halloween, there'll be people, or Harry Potter, people could show up in costume. Or people would just wear concert T-shirts from the 80s or 90s for boy bands. And like ladies who all come with Christmas like hats and lights or if it's someone's birthday, they'll all come in the same outfit kind of thing. So yeah, there's some costumes sometimes for sure.
I got to use my elf hat from 4 Elf Day at trivia too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
That's a fun
multi-purpose
one.
elf hat. Yeah, I like
Mm-hmm.
it.
You can use it for lots of stuff.
Yep.
And a banana. Sometimes you're just a banana.
Yes.
He likes the banana.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's like coming from a beer fest or what has happened when Rob shows up in his banana hat, but something.
Yeah.
So, the banana costume was very convenient at the beer fest.
Because you could find him very easily.
Yes. It helps that he's taller than most of the people around him, but the banana helped.
Yeah, I'm sure. It's like dressing your kid in all yellow so that you can find them easily in a crowd if they get lost. It's the same concept.
Yeah, the balloon thing is becoming more and more common at beer festivals, and I have seen different groups with the same balloons now.
Oh no!
So, because there's so many balloons, it's becoming hard to. It's like when putting the little ball on your car antenna was used to find your car at a parking lot. Then everybody had them.
Yeah, and then if everybody's doing it, it's not very helpful.
Kids out there, cars used to have radios that had an antenna that stuck up.
Yes, there used to be antennas on our car. Now they're just built in. I forgot about that because I immediately pictured what you were talking about, and I thought, I wonder why people don't do that anymore. And I just totally forgot that we don't have antennas on our cars like that.
Yes.
I remember a radio station gave out those little ball antennas the little styrofoam balls for your car. And I put it on my car, and my radio wouldn't work because it would bend the antenna because it was too heavy. I'm like, why is my radio all staticky? Because the antenna didn't work anymore with
Oh,
the little styrofoam ball on it.
that didn't work out.
No.
That was poor planning on someone's part. You should have at least tested them because they paid for and ordered a lot of those.
And now they're not even going to get the advertising.
No.
No. And no one can listen. They won't have any listeners either. Poor guys.
It took me a good week to figure out that it was that little styrofoam ball that was causing the problem, though.
That's ridiculous.
So are you looking to grow your business at all? Are you happy with the size you're at?
I think for me right now, any new business, like we have people who are like, come do business at this axe throwing place, or come do trivia at our American Legion or whatever. And it's just like, okay, if I choose to add another place on Thursdays, then it's really cutting into any days that we have off. So, I mean, I'd be really picky about like choosing a new place because it's such a commitment. But like we did recently add a Saturday night trivia, and that has worked out okay because Saturday nights isn't a night that we usually do family stuff anyway, and we can still go out after if we really want to. And if it were a Sunday, sure, but during the week when they actually need the trivia, it's hard to commit to that. So we're not really growing. We are staying the same for now, unless something comes up that's feasible, like one of our other hosts can do. But certainly I can't commit to another night. My husband can't commit to another night. They just do so much trivia. It's a lot.
Eventually your kids will be old enough, right?
Yeah. And they're in there. Well, one just turned 21 last week, so he could quit college and come over and do trivia. That'd be fine.
It's perfect.
I've known a lot of college students that were trivia hosts.
Yeah. If he lived nearby, I would make him do it for sure.
Our favorite trivia host at our local brewery was a college student, and when he graduated, we were devastated. Like, we had a big party for him and everything.
Yeah. People get really attached to their trip. Like if I have someone cover for me, then when I come back, it's like, don't leave again. Even though those people are perfectly good at doing the trivia, they're just used to a certain thing. And like when I try to cover, especially for Trent at Planetary Brewing, I'm just so boring compared to him. Like I haven't really seen him do the trivia, so I don't know what he does. I know it takes way longer than 2 hours. It takes like way over 2 hours. But they love him, and they would definitely have a party for him if he left.
So yeah. I do enjoy when Trent subs for you. He puts clues in his playlist.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a lot of fun. You just figure out what kind of clue and it's usually pretty well slant-wise. So,
yeah.
But that's what he does. That I think people like that, and he's just really up and positive.
Yeah, and people love it when Brad does bonus songs. Like he'll do it's 1 point. It is like 1 point, but they love it, and they're always like, "Are you gonna do bonus songs?" I'm like, "Oh, I guess."
So even in your format that you created, your hosts are doing stuff under you.
They are, and that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. People love them. It's fine.
Yes. And as an aside, we used to call Brad your intern when he first started.
He was. Yeah. We actually met at Mind Over Mash because it was like online stuff, and I was like, I'm here. I'm hosting bingo at Mind Over Mash right now. So this is what I look like. If you want to just come and play bingo, then we can meet afterward. And And so he did. He came over and played bingo. And that's how that started. And he's a really good trivia host because his voice is like perfect for it.
He does have a good voice for it. Yep.
He does.
Wendy, you were on mute, but I think you were asking something.
Darn it, I hit the wrong button. Wait, they had bingo at the bar?
Yeah. We had a couple places before COVID that hosted bingo. Planetary and Mind Over Mash both. So I'd sit there. It was a slow start at first because the first time they ever did a bingo was on Valentine's Day. And I was like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to play your first bingo on like no one's going to come to that? But they did. There were 4 people there and I had never hosted bingo. So the first round of like mixing up the bingo balls, I had left the cage door open and I didn't know. And I'm like, okay, here we go. And I start it and they all just go flying everywhere, all over the place. And I was like, oh, I'm just really bad at this. I'm really bad at this. And then the numbers would wear off. So I would just, if it was yellow, I would just call a number that I hadn't called. That I hadn't called yet.
So you're playing
48. Because I was keeping track of it anyway. Yeah, but the numbers would wear off pretty quickly. And so I just make it up. But it was fun.
My mind of bingo is shattered.
I know, sorry. But it was still random. You still had all the bingo cards. I didn't know what was on your card.
Right.
It could have been anything.
American Legion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. They play for real money at the American Legion.
Bingo players.
Yeah. We were playing for like a glass and maybe like a $5, like a pint of beer. Yeah.
That's right. I do remember those days. I miss Mind Over Mash. It was a great place.
I do too. It was fun. I was like, if you just held on a little bit longer, COVID happened right after they closed.
Yeah.
And I think they could have made it through that if they wanted to.
I think they could have. Yeah. They spent more time fixing the equipment than brewing beer, and that was frustrating.
It was expensive too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can see what happened there, but
yeah. Are you still hosting bingo, or are you into the music bingo or any of those other pub games that are out there?
well, any bingo I was hosting, I just got myself fired from because I said I just randomly say numbers, but no, no one currently has bingo. I think they have switched over to the music bingo format. A lot of them, if they're going to do bingo, it's music bingo, which is really fun to play. The system itself, to like buy the system that it requires to do that, is really expensive. Like a big monthly fee. So that's why only the national chains basically do that, or people who have a lot of time on their hands to just get like 30-second clips of music all set up for the whole night. And you have to have several rounds of it, but it is fun to play. But it's not something that we do.
I still have not played it.
It's fun unless the host tells you afterward what the song was. Like if they give it away and people are like, oh, it was that, and then they mark it off, I want to have to guess. I want to have to know like what it was in order to get the space, if that makes sense. Like I don't like it when they tell me what the answer was.
Yeah, you still want some challenge there.
That's cheating.
Yeah, it is. It's totally cheating.
Wait, that's cheating.
It is. It's taking away the fun.
It's no different from bingo at that point. They're just calling out, instead of letters and numbers, they're just calling out song names.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly. Why did you play the clip if you're just going to tell me what it was anyway? So yeah. I don't like it when they do that, but it is fun to play.
Are there other of these pub games that you're out there currently playing that I maybe haven't encountered because I don't go bar hopping?
No, some trivias are completely different than ours, and it's a completely different experience. And so we'll go to those sometimes if they're family friendly, and we can do that like when our teenage daughter is available on a Thursday night. She doesn't really like to go with us very much because, we take it pretty seriously.
Do you argue with the host?
We have.
Sometimes you have
I'm
to.
ashamed to admit it, but we have definitely done that.
Yeah. Sometimes they need it.
Have you ever
Sometimes.
seen a team like totally implode while you're?
Oh, yes. There have definitely been people in tears at the table, and it's because they're fighting over
An answer.
something that you asked and they couldn't decide on, or someone didn't write down the answer that you wanted them to, and then you got it wrong, and they were right. I've definitely seen people in tears. And I have a lady that I work with who comes to my trivia who missed. She's an 8th grade world history teacher, or American history teacher, and she missed a president question last Saturday. And every day she's like, I can't even look at you. I'm so embarrassed that I missed that question. I have to redeem myself somehow.
So I have a question.
Mhm.
Our team was a revolving team. We haven't been playing for a while now, but we called ourselves Mix Pack because we were playing at a brewery and we were all beer people.
Mhm.
And it was just a revolving team. So whoever could come would show up, and that was who your team was. Well,
Yeah.
after a few years, it ended up being a very small group of us that continue to play on a regular basis.
Mhm.
And we were playing the trivia, and they asked a question, and it was about J-Lo, who is not even one of my favorite artists. But I did know that her album was named after the train she used to ride into the city.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait. And I had just been to Chicago, so I was like, wait, what do they call the train in New York? And they're like, the subway. I'm like, then write that fucking down. And they did, but because I couldn't remember that it was called the subway, they put like 1 point. And I was like, then write it down, because that's what it is. And I'll never forget that, even though it was like 10 years ago at this point.
Yeah, defending yourself when you don't have like an exact reason why you know something. Like, I don't know why I know that. But I do know that. So just trust me. Sometimes it works out. Or just writing down something completely off, or writing a question mark when you had at least an answer that could have worked. Yeah, people fight over that for sure. And you remember it.
We enjoy when you host, because when we answer with a funny answer, you will read it. Not all hosts do that.
Yeah, and sometimes when everyone misses it, I'm like, who did we think this was? And I'll read off all of the different answers, and it's like, nobody got that. But here's who we thought it was, Yeah, I try to read the funny ones as long as they're not like stupid. Like some people just write down really stupid stuff, and I'm like, okay. Funny. It has to actually be funny for me to read it.
So that's why you don't always read ours. I see.
Or sometimes I just forget and there's no time.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah, go with that one.
Some of us appreciate you sticking with the time limit.
Yeah, some people do.
Yeah, especially the bartenders.
Yeah, the bartenders are ready to get out of there. And it's funny how fast the places clear out after trivia is over. It's like empty before I can even get my speakers down. And they're just like, well, that's trivia night. Everybody's gone already. Which they like. They appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right.
I was going to point out that there's the answerers on the team. There's that person who says all the words, all the answers, and then is mad when you don't write down one of the ones that they said.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like what happened to Wendy, the people who are sure about a thing, but they don't know the exact word to put on there. And so you don't get all the points for it.
No. You have to be able to defend yourself.
Yeah.
Why do you? It's not just I read that one time. It's I read that in this particular place in this particular time, and here's all of the other information before they will believe you. But you're like, but I have 2 minutes to answer this question. Please just take my word for it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had
I
a
see
friend
a lot
that
of fights.
I had a friend that got a trivia question right because he saw it on a TV show.
Yeah.
He didn't actually know the answer. He
Mhm.
saw it, something similar on a TV show, and he's like, "That's it." And
That's the thing.
he was like, "Thank you, Law and Order," or whatever. I don't even remember what the show was, but it was funny that he was like, "I have no idea. I don't play video games."
Yeah, but I did see someone else playing it on TV once. So yeah, you don't have to
Yes.
know why you know it.
We have had the answer scrolling behind your head before. That's always great on the
Oh,
TV behind you.
Asking current sports questions when all of the bars are just playing ESPN behind me. I'm like, oh, what was I thinking? Or one time I asked about the
Indiana
the
flag.
number of stars on the Indiana flag, which is 19 because it's the 19th state. And someone had bought a knockoff Indiana flag. There was one. It was right on the wall. And so I was like, oh man, it's right there.
Right
Like they're
number.
just definitely gonna get it. But it was a knockoff flag, and so they missed it because it didn't have the right number of stars on it.
Oh my god, that's
And they're like,
awesome.
it's right there. I was like, that's not right. That's not
a
real.
flag.
No, that's fake.
The dollar store version.
Yeah. And I had to show them, like, this is what this flag actually looks like. That's not the real one. It was ridiculous. Yeah, sometimes I don't even think about it. And then there's a picture of that on the wall in the place where I'm asking it. Or like, I'm asking a question about Great Britain and I forget that there's a team who comes every week who's British. And it's like, why did I write that question for tonight? Like, I'm just giving it away. Or I'm going to say it wrong and they're going to be like, that's actually not what we do. Right. Yeah, that's actually not right at all. I'm like, well, thanks for letting me know. So I have to think about who's going to be there. Yeah.
Wendy, do you have anything else before we start going into our final questions?
Let's see. We talked about teams that go crazy. Do you have? I can't say. Do you have a favorite team because you've got Rob here and he's on one of your teams. So you, by default, would have to pick him.
That's right.
Is there a favorite theme that you like to go with? That you have a really easy time of writing questions about, or do you repeat themes?
Yeah. So it's honestly, I'll look back and say, like, how long has it been since we've done this theme? If it's been a year or more, then we can do it again. But we can't do like 80s music every 2 months because people get mad. People actually get really mad at the beginning of the year now because we have too many sports themes, because it's the NFL, it's with all the Super Bowl stuff, it's college football as well, and then it's leading into March Madness, and they're like, another sports theme. I'm like, yeah, but it's the perfect time of year. We do repeat things. It's usually timely with, like, this week was Academy Award winners, and the Academy Awards are on Sunday. So we try to do those when we can, because we know we're only doing it once a year. And then the other ones we'll just throw in. And sometimes, literally, I don't know what the theme's going to be until I'm like 4:00 in the afternoon. I'm like, what should it be? Oh, I don't know. Board games, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but we pretty much have a good rotation of things, and sometimes we'll add in a new thing every couple of months, and people like that too.
I would like to throw out TV chefs.
TV chefs?
As a theme, yeah.
There are a lot of those.
I'm not Indiana, so I won't be able to play.
Right.
But it's something that I would like. Have you guys
Rob can write down the question.
Have you guys watched The Floor? game show?
No.
I've seen it, but I don't really
cool
understand it.
they show them pictures, and they have to identify things in the pictures.
Mm.
And then there was like one where they gave them 3 clues, and they had to pick based off the 3 clues what it was. It's just really fun to watch. They did multiplication the other day, and I was really impressed at my multiplication skills.
It's funny what comes back.
That's right. I know that you have one team. They don't always show up, and you probably know who they are from that. But they do write down the questions, or at least enough so they remember the questions. And he reviews them with his team in the next morning's meeting.
I have a lot of people who are like, "Hey, I missed trivia last week. Can you send me the questions? I want to ask them at work." I'm like, "No, you got to be there. You got to be there to write them down. I'm not going to share my questions."
That's right.
That's funny.
Sorry.
I would like your whole database, please.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you would. Yeah, we have people who definitely write down the questions, and sometimes, occasionally, I'll try to like look up trivia questions about whatever, and I'm thinking like, yeah, I think they might have taken that question from me. Someone is selling my questions, but it's really just a good general, question.
Yeah.
No one's selling my questions.
Facts are out there as facts, and you didn't steal from Jeopardy.
Right. It's true. It's a fact. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. Sniffy Things is just suggesting video games might not be popular, but popular with them. I think.
Yeah, I try to throw in the really video games question. Oh yeah, you guys have those young guys who would love video games.
Yeah, well, even before then, I think I did pretty good on the video games. But yeah,
it's hard. It's hard to come up with new ones about the video games because they're not coming. Like popular games aren't coming out every week or anything like that. So there's one or two, maybe 3 like big games that come out new.
Yeah, it's mostly the franchise is just a new version in the franchise.
Yeah, a new subtitle or whatever.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of our past hosts were trivia guys, and I bet you they could come up with quite a few video game questions.
Yeah, they can just, if you're into something, you can just spout out questions about it. And I found that people who are super into something and they want to write questions make them so difficult because they think it has to be something that they couldn't answer necessarily. But in reality, people just don't know that. Even if they're diehard fans, sometimes they don't know the things. And I run into that too. I write questions that are too hard, and I'm like, oh, I just thought everyone would know that, but they don't.
One of the guys on my team always says that's too. It's not trivia enough. Because if you we would say something and he's like, no, that's not trivia enough. That's too. What's the word he would use? I don't want to say hoity-toity. That's too educated. You want it to be a little more plain than that. Not super obvious, but.
Yeah, I try to put like clues in there sometimes, like if it's going to be something completely random, something that they could at least guess the right kind of time frame or whatever. Not always, though.
Oh, Toots.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Toots lost first place because he doesn't know what is a muggle.
That's how it happens.
I used to geocache with the kids pretty regularly, and a muggle is the term for the person who's not geocaching, who stumbles upon the geocache and messes with it.
There you go. Just the rando who is like, what's this?
It's the same idea, pretty much.
Yeah. Nicknames for everything.
That's right.
True story.
All right. Well, we're about at time, so we're going to wrap up like we wrap up every show with a final question. And these are not beer related. Of course, not any of our questions were beer related in this case.
Sorry.
They tend to be
That's
more
okay.
fun and just get into who is Annie. So I will go ahead and let Wendy think of hers, and I will ask my old standby of Annie. What is the last board game that you played, and did you win?
Oh man, the last board game I played, well, we play a lot of cards, and so
Cards count.
do cards count?
Cards
We
count.
taught the kids euchre, and yes, I won.
So Indiana.
Yeah, it was very Indiana.
You were the one who first or last turned me on to Terraforming Mars before I ended up getting it and playing it.
Yeah, it's a whole experience. It's a whole adventure,
Yeah,
and you can make it.
That's right.
It takes hours.
It can take hours, yes.
Yes, it can.
So, since you are not a beer girl, what is your go-to drink when you're out enjoying yourself? Not as much.
So it depends on the place. Like if I'm at a place that can make a good cocktail, then I'll try to order something that's on their menu. It's usually bourbon related. We recently acquired a bourbon table that we finally put together. So we try to have bourbon cocktails, or if I'm at just a kind of a divey bar, I'll get a vodka tonic just because I know that that's doable. But yeah, I would say bourbon is my favorite. So anything bourbon.
And it's an important distinction is bourbon and whiskey.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
Yes.
for sure.
We did not get that trivia question right because I wanted to go with the less specific whiskey, and it was shot down.
Yeah, because sometimes bourbon is the only available possible answer. Has to be bourbon.
I think this was for mint juleps, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
those are bourbon. That's not whiskey.
Think about where it's made.
Yes. Yes.
Where that cocktail
And who-
originated and what goes in it.
We
Yeah,
definitely
and
could have
who's
gone
drinking
more.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Kentuckians.
So, Annie, thank you very much for being on. It was a pleasure to talk to you. We are wrapping this up. So, show stuff. Our next show, the second Friday of March. March is next month. Tomorrow, in fact.
Tomorrow. March Madness is coming up.
That's
Anything?
right.
You
Oh,
guys
yeah.
are going to get the brackets.
So March Draftness, that's right. It is fully on and happening. So that stuff will be coming out. The breweries are getting settled. The brackets will be coming out at some point.
Early next week.
So yeah, so look forward to that. I don't want to work Ken any harder than he has to work as he puts
Since
that
he
together.
retired.
Yes, since he retired. So that's coming up, and then in 2 weeks, when we will be talking to the owner of Goodman House Brewing, a wonderful, wonderful brewery here in Indianapolis, and that will be at a weird time. I want to say it's at 1 p.m. instead of our normal 8:30 on the Friday.
Wow.
So it's not too early to drink. But just be aware that one will be at a weird time. And I think that is all I've got to say for upcoming shows and stuff. Wen, did you have anything to add?
Nope. Just watch out for the March Madness brackets. Vote early and vote often.
That's right.
Support your favorite locals.
All right. So we will sign off, and I will say, whatever you think of your beer, we think it's better on draft.
Cheers.
Thank you.